What's going on, guys? Today we're going to go over a lower back friendly full body workout that you could do with minimal space and equipment. We're going to start off by going through each exercise included in the workout. I'm going to throw some good coaching cues at you so you know how to get the most out of each exercise. But stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to show you how to put it all together into one great workout. Let's get to it. We're starting off with one of my favorite exercises, the rear foot elevated split squat. I really love single leg exercises for most of my clients, but especially for people who have pre-existing lower back injuries or just some general tightness in their lower back. The reason being is because one, life happens one leg at a time. So when we're thinking of like walking or sprinting, jumping, whatever, we're doing it unilaterally, meaning one leg at a time. When it comes to like the function of the exercise, it has a lot of applicability in everyday life and sport. But from another standpoint, it allows us to put all of that load onto the lower body and the legs and basically bypass the spine and the lower back when it comes to some of the exercises that we're doing in the gym. So to get set up for the split squat, I'm going to start from the bottom, meaning that I'm going to go have my back foot up on a platform. If you don't have a split squat stand like this, that's fine. You can just use a bench or a couch at home. When you're doing this, I like to start with my knee slightly behind my back hip. So I'm getting a bit of an extension and a stretch in that back hip, as well as my front foot. I want it to be completely flat on the floor. I don't want it to be too close, because if it's too close, what's going to happen is when I go to do the exercise, my heel is going to lift up off the floor, putting a little bit too much pressure on the front of the knee on that front leg. So I want to make sure that it's nice and flat, so when I go down, I'm able to drive through my heel. So I'm thinking heavy heel as I do this, so I can recruit my glutes more effectively when I'm doing it. I'm going to do it in a goblet stance here, meaning that I'm going to be holding a kettlebell or a dumbbell in front of my chest while I do it. But by all means, if you want to load it differently, meaning that you can hold a dumbbell in each hand, you can do that as well. I'm going to pick up the weight, goblet stance here. I'm going to take a big air in through my nose, fill my belly with air and get really tight. Push through my heel, squat up until my front leg is extended. I go down, good control, tap the knee on the floor, drive back up. Down, good control, tap the knee, drive back up. Next up is a TRX row. A couple of common mistakes that you're going to notice folks make when they're doing this exercise is one, when they go up, they'll tend to try to go too far down, making it a little bit too challenging. So they end up having to compensate by really arcing the ribs and the lower back. That puts a lot of pressure on the lower back, and the whole point of this workout is to take any stress or unwanted pain out of the lower back. So to do this correctly, what I want you to think of is not allowing the ribs to flare out. You want to think tucking the ribs down, keeping your core nice and tight. And what you're going to do is when you're setting up, feet are going to be fairly close together. They can be flexed or flat, doesn't matter. I'm going to tuck my ribs in, and I'm basically going to pull myself up, lowering myself, good control. I'm pretending that I'm holding basically a perfect plank in my body as I'm moving my arms. You can think of like rows as just a plank while you're moving your arms. I like to pretend that my hands are hooks and I'm pulling with my elbows. I'm like pushing my elbows down to the floor, squeeze my armpits really tight to really dial in on the back. Quick tip that you can do is to take any pressure out at all out of the lower back, is to take like a yoga block or a pillow or even a foam roller. You can pinch it in between your knees and trying to crush the block as you're doing the row. What that does is it activates your deep adductor muscles, which helps support your lower back and take any unwanted pressure out of the lower back. You should feel your core kind of tighten up a little bit as you're crushing that yoga block as well. If you're a little bit more advanced and you want to take it up a notch, see that split squat stand? You can take that split squat stand that you used in the previous exercise or bench, whatever you have available. You can go a little further down, elevate your feet, and now you're rowing more of your body weight, making the exercise a little bit more challenging. Next up on the dock, we've got a dumbbell alternating bench press with our feet elevated. You might be wondering, why do I want my feet elevated? The reason being is when you go down into a normal bench press, whether you're doing dumbbells or a barbell, we tend to have a natural arc in that lower back. And while that's beneficial from a strength perspective, meaning that that arc helps us lift more weight,
The problem is if we have lower back issues or like lower back pain, it tends to put a lot of unwanted strain on the lower back. So to get rid of that, you're just gonna elevate your feet up on the bench. Now you can do it in an alternating fashion like this. If you want to challenge your balance and stability in your core a little bit. If you want to lift a little bit heavier weight and get more stability, just do the same movement, pressing both dumbbells at the same time. A cue that I like to think of is I'm pulling the dumbbells down, getting them to touch my armpits so I'm getting a good full stretch at the bottom of that position, and then pressing them up nice and straight, trying to crush a walnut in between my pecs at the top.
Here we've got a leg curl with the stability ball. There's a ton of variations you can do with this. Today we're doing a 2 in, 1 out variation. So what that means is that I'm gonna be laying down on my back. Both feet are gonna be up on top of the ball. I'm gonna curl the ball in with 2 feet and then go out with 1 foot at a time, really challenging the eccentric portion or the outward portion of this movement, tackling that hamstring and glute. So to get set up, feet centered on the top of the ball. You can have your elbows bent or arms straight, doesn't matter. I'm gonna pull my hips up to the ceiling, squeeze my glutes tight. I curl the ball in, keep my knee, my hip, and my shoulder one straight diagonal line. From there, I lift 1 foot up and straighten that ball with 1 leg, bring the other foot down. And now I could do it alternating, left, right, or I could just stick to one side for the prescribed reps and then switch sides after. Band pull-aparts are one of my favorite exercises for the upper back. Now, from a lower back perspective, there is one thing you want to consider avoiding is when people do this movement, a common mistake is when they get fatigued, they'll end up just arcing the ribs out and really pushing those hips forward excessively and getting a lot of like unwanted arc in their lower back. And that takes the whole benefit out of the exercise. The whole point of this exercise is to dial in on all those small, intricate, and often neglected upper back muscles. So to do this correctly, I want you to always think, again, I sound like a broken record, you want your ribs tucked down while you're doing this, no rib flare. And when you're doing it, your arms are locked the entire time. I'm pretending that I'm driving my pinky knuckles to the wall behind me, squeezing my shoulder blades together, and coming back, good control, keeping the tension in the band the entire range of motion, never letting the band slack. I'm always keeping tension in the band. If you find that you're doing this and you're trying to like cheat basically and compensate the movement by arcing the back and kind of putting a little bit too much body English into the movement, simply just have your hands a little bit wider on the band to get less tension on it. But you don't want to go, on that point, you don't want to go too wide so you're kind of just like doing a short range of motion. You want to go through a full range of motion, meaning that your hands are in front of your shoulders, you're going all the way back and then all the way forward. So to do that, instead of holding both ends of the band, you would just take one end of the band. And again, you can go through that full range of motion and it's a little bit easier because you're not holding both sides of the resistance band. To cap things off, the icing on the cake, we're doing a little bit of a gun run to finish things off using what's called the Sevens curl circuit. It's what's called a mechanical drop set, meaning that we've got 3 different curl variations that we're doing. We start off with the hardest one, meaning that like we should feel the weakest during this movement. And then each variation thereafter gets a little bit easier from a mechanical standpoint, but since we're pre-exhausting it with that first initial movement, they should feel more challenging. So the weight you should be using, it's not going to be too heavy. You want to maybe dial back a little bit on the weight you're using for this one. So to start off, we have 3 variations of curls. We have a Zottman curl, meaning that we're curling it up with in a supinated grip, palms facing towards us. We rotate our palms forward on the way down during the eccentric portion of the movement. We do 7 reps. After we do 7 Zottmans, we do 7 supinated curls, palms facing up the entire time. After we've done 7 of those, no rest, by the way, we're going right away. We go to 7 hammer curls. So let's take all of those exercises and put it together into one cohesive workout. We have 3 blocks here, block A, block B, and block C. Block A is when we're pairing the rear foot elevated split squat with the TRX rows. We're anywhere between 3 to 4 sets for about 6 to 8 repetitions. Each exercise is going to be great with about a 1 to 2 minute rest between sets. One thing that I want you to consider too is anytime you're doing a single leg exercise, You don't need to jump right into the other leg. Take at least 30 to 60 seconds when switching sides, because especially with the rear foot elevated split squats, it is such a taxing movement, so you're gonna need that recovery between sets. And I always say, if you don't feel like you need the rest, it probably means that you're not going heavy enough and you should be going heavier. Block B is a three-peat or a giant set. We have the dumbbell bench press with our feet elevated. Again, you could do it alternating one arm at a time, or if you want to handle a little bit more weight, you can do both together at the same time. We're pairing that with the 2 in, 1 out stability ball leg curl and the band pull aparts. We're going to be doing about anywhere between 3 to 4 sets total is going to be great. We're going to be using an 8, 10, 12 rep progression, meaning that 8 repetitions on the dumbbell bench press, 10 repetitions on the 2 in, 1 out leg curl. So 10 total, meaning 5 each side. So we're going really slow on the way out for that eccentric portion of the movement, and 12 repetitions on the band pull apart. Block C is the 7s curl circuit. We're doing 7 Zottman curls, 7 supinated curls, and 7 hammer curls, all consecutively without taking a rest in between each variation. Once you've done 7 reps or 21 reps total of that, you take a 2 to 3 minute rest, and then you repeat again for just 2 total sets. You might be thinking 2 minutes seems like a long time to rest between curl circuits. I promise, for a mechanical drop set like this, you're gonna need that recovery in between sets. You don't need any more than 2 total sets for that. Anything beyond that is just gonna be excessive junk volume. Give this workout a shot, guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. If you could please like, subscribe, and share, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today. I'll see you guys soon.